Hi, this is Terry, and today I wanted to do a tutorial on how to sew your own just DIY face masks. I do want to say this is not going to be the same as like a medical grade surgical mask or N95 mask, and those have different layers in them that are built to not let like even the really tiny particles that we can't see and viruses through. But it is shown that it can at least help some with not letting things go in and out. And so, especially with some people being asymptomatic right now, having to still go to the grocery store, things like that, they're just recommending if you can wear a mask when you go on outings, that's ideal. So cut 2 different fabrics, 9 inches tall and 8 inches across. Then you're going to fold the bottom edge under 2 times, just about 1/8 of an inch hem, and you're going to sew down. When you get to the end, you actually don't even need to cut your thread or stop. You can just slip your next piece right under the presser foot and start sewing that. And that's a way to save a little bit of time and a little bit of thread. So you cut your fabric and your hem at the bottom edge should look like this. You're going to leave all the rest unsewn, just the bottom 2. You're going to line those 2 up with the side that will end up facing out, facing in right now. So you're going to line up that bottom edge like this. Okay, now if you're using elastic and you have a corded elastic, which is like the kind that's cylinder, like round cord elastic, I guess. And these should be cut 7 inches long. So another little tip when you're trying to do a lot at once, you can just measure the first one, which is what I did here. I measured it 7 inches, and then I am just going back and forth like this, lining each piece up, back and forth. And then when I get as much as I want, I'll just measure again to double check that that is all 7 inches, and I can just cut all of one end and cut through the other end, and then I have a bunch of elastic already cut in the right length. Okay, so if you're using a corded kind that's round, you want to tie a little knot in the end. I'd say, let me measure. It is about, there's probably a little less than 1/2 inch on this end here. So what I'm doing is just doing a regular knot, and then I slide it down to the end and pull it tight. What that does is sometimes when you're sewing, your needle will actually skip over the elastic if it falls just right. And then when you pull it, it can slip through the opening. So the knot just keeps it in place. And if you have a flat elastic, then you don't need to worry about tying the knot because the needle is going to go through a flat elastic more than a rounded one. Okay, so I've tied my knots on both ends. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to take this piece and I am going to line my knot up right to the edge of my hemmed side, like that. And I'll just put a clip. If you have clips or pins, you can put a clip there. Now I'm going to take the other end and bring it down to the bottom. So this is your hemmed side. Your elastics are going to go a knot here and here, and then your other one's going to go here and here. Now your elastic is obviously shorter than the fabric as you have it right now because you haven't added your pleats. So it's a little tricky because your elastic is like that. What you want to do as you sew is push your elastic towards the middle. You're going to start stitching, then do the little reverse where you back stitch and that locks it in place. And you're going to sew down this side. And when you get about halfway down, you can straighten out this end like this and that'll pull the elastic where now this is all bunched up and tight and this is straight, and you can make sure your elastic is pushed in towards the inside so it's all staying on this inside edge. Okay, and then you're going to do the same thing on your other side. So you have this side, you're also going to place it right here, and then another clip at the bottom, pull it to the bottom corner, and clip it there. Okay, at this point, you would take it over to your sewing machine. You are going to sew down this side. Then you can make sure the needle is down into your fabric when you get to the corner. Lift up that presser foot and turn your fabric. Then go across the top. Same thing where your needle's down, lift up your presser foot, turn it this way, and then you're going to go down this edge. Now you're going to leave this side completely open that's already hemmed at this point. Okay, so once you have that section done, we are going to add in the nose piece, and we're going to turn everything inside out, and then I'll show you what we need to do next. So I'm going to go ahead and sew this, and then I'll come back and show you how we finish everything else.
Okay, now that your bottom edges are hemmed, line them up and put your knotted elastic in the bottom corner. Start sewing and then backstitch to lock your stitch in place. And you will want to reach in and tuck your elastic in towards the middle so you don't accidentally sew on your elastic. Now sew about halfway down, and when you get about halfway, reach in, tuck your elastic in again, and pull the second half down straight. This will bunch up the side that you have already sewn and allow the second half to be easier to sew. Now sew all the way down until you get to your corner, sewing over the elastic. Lift up your presser foot and turn the fabric. Make sure your needle's down when you do this. Now sew straight across the top of your two pieces. When you get to the next corner, make sure you sew over your knotted elastic again that's on the other side. Sew again until you get right on top of it. Make sure your needle is down, lift your presser foot, and turn your fabric. Now tuck your elastic in towards the middle once again, so you make sure it's sewn on the right side. Sew about halfway down, and then pull the second half down. That will bunch up the side that you've already sewn. Make sure your elastic is tucked in and sew all the way down to your bottom hem, going over your knotted elastic and back stitching as you get to the end. Now cut your fabric and you're ready to add your nose piece. So as you can see here, we sewed down one side, across the top, and down the other side, and we left the bottom open.
Okay, so we've got the 3 lines sewn. Now I'm going to take my tin tie, and it is actually sticky on one side, so I'm going to just stick it along the top. You could also place a twist tie or a pipe cleaner or your straightened paper clip right at the top. And then you're going to flip the entire thing inside out. The whole thing inside out. You can pull those edges like that. And you have this up at the top edge. You're going to sew right along this
edge to keep your nose piece in place. I'm using a regular presser foot, but you can also use a zipper foot if that works easier for you. So when you're done, it should look like this, and that will keep that top nose piece from slipping down. Okay, now to make your pleats, I found this great tip to use a corn on the cob skewer. And what you're going to do is find your sides, and then you just put it around the fabric, so the fabric is in the middle, and turn it up. And when you turn it up, it gives just a great amount of fabric to be pleated up. And then put your clip or pin right there. Go about an inch down and do that again, a second time, and then go about an inch down and do it one more time. So you should have 3 pleats on each side. Now you're going to start at the top with your nose piece and sew straight down that side. Pick up your presser foot and pivot the fabric so you're at your bottom hemmed side. Now you're going to sew about 2 inches down, back stitch to lock it. You're going to leave about a 3-inch gap, and then you're going to sew at the bottom another 2 inches shut. So right here, I'm going to leave the gap, and that's where I'm going to be able to put my filter in and out. And I'm going to start sewing again, back stitch, and go all the way to the end. Now pivot your fabric around, and you're going to make your pleats. Make sure you do them the correct direction so that they match the other side. And now you can sew straight down this side. And then your mask is finished. You just want to trim any threads that are hanging out, and you are done.
Now, if you don't have elastic and you need to use ties, then you want to do a piece of fabric about an inch wide. It can be a little bit less than an inch, but if you go smaller than that, it's kind of hard to work with folding it in. And 18 inches long. Okay, so then you're going to fold that in half, and then you're going to turn the edges in. So basically you'll fold those edges in and then fold it in half. So all the seams are turned in, and then you're just going to sew all the way down that. And when you're done, it should look like this, a strap. I also, on one end, I've been tucking that end down. I mean, just maybe a 1/4 of an inch, and then turning the sides in and that in. If it helps you to iron it, you can iron it, but I'm usually one to just tuck it in as I go and just try to make it really straight. So up to you what you're comfortable with. But so that's how you do those. You don't have to turn the second end down because that's going to be sewn into your mask. So you just want one end with the edges sewn under. Okay, so you're going to be at the same step as when we had the edges hemmed and nothing else done. And just how you pinned the elastic into the 4 corners, you're going to need 4 ties. So you're going to put one all the way down at the very bottom edge of the hem, and you're going to clip that. Let me grab my clips. And you're going to clip that. Your second tie, you're going to put it up in the corner between the 2 fabrics. It's just sandwiched in the middle. Clip that. Your third tie is going to be in the 3rd corner. And then your 4th tie, at this point, you want to kind of cut this. At this point, you want to shake all of your fabrics down where they are coming out of your hemmed edge so that you make sure none of them are going out to the side and you sew over them. So all the ties should be facing towards the inside of the fabric. Oh, and then here is a tip. Sometimes when you're cutting your fabric, you might cut it a little bit crooked. So maybe you measured, 9 by 8, but it came out 9 on one end and up to 10 on the other. You weren't cutting straight. This is your chance to correct it. So as long as you keep your hemmed side straight, then you can kind of measure and account for if you cut one piece a little bit crooked. Okay, so this is all going to be on the inside. It doesn't matter if it's not lined up, but on your hemmed side, you really need it to be lined up. Okay, and then you take your fourth tie and you're going to line that one all the way down to the hemmed edge. Okay, so at that point, you'll just take it over your sewing machine, you'll go down, over, and back down, and you're going to leave your hemmed edge open. When you've done that, I have mine already, another one already done, you can just turn the whole thing inside out. And there you go. All of your ties are attached in the four corners, just like that. Okay? Now, if you are using your nose piece, sewing in a nose piece, then this is when, I'm going to do a paper clip just to show this as an example. So you're going to straighten out your paper clip. Like that. You're going to turn these very ends. I would recommend using like some needle nose pliers to turn those edges in, because that's going to be a lot easier than using your fingers. But for the sake of the video, I will just do this. So you're going to turn those in so they're not poking out, and kind of clamp them down. Much easier with pliers. Okay, so you have that piece. You're going to put that piece centered into that very top part. Now, if whatever piece you're using does not go from the length of the side to the side, you don't want it to slide back and forth. So you're going to top stitch, and you're going to go down on the outside edge so that I can feel that the paper clip ends here. I'm going to move a little bit over. I'm going to sew there. I'm going to sew under the paper clip, and then I can feel where the paper clip ends. I'm going to sew right here. Okay, so it would give it a little pocket where it can't shift around or fall down. Okay, now let's pretend that we already did that, so I can show on here this really awesome tip. I saw this online. I did not come up with this, and I don't know who came up with it, but it's a great idea. When you are making your pleats, you can use a clean corn on the cob skewer, and you're going to go down. If you can see, I put it where it's on the outside edges of my fabric, and then you just turn it, and it just perfectly brings it up so that every single pleat is the same width. I skip about an inch, and then I do it again. Put another clip, skip about an inch, and I do it one last time. So you want 3 pleats. And what that does is it makes the sides more narrow, but it can still open wide. Okay. So then once you get your pleats ready, you're going to just sew down both sides, and then we're going to line up our hemmed edge, and we're going to sew down about 2 inches, back stitch to lock it. We're going to leave a little opening of about 3 inches, and then we're going to sew another 2 inches shut, and that'll leave a little pocket at the bottom. So here I have one already done. I have sewn my pleats on both sides. I've sewn on these edges, and I have the pocket right here that I can slip like a paper towel or a coffee filter in there. I feel like if you leave about, maybe even a little more than I did here, about 3 inches, That's going to be enough room to really put this inside, but not enough room that it can like fall out. So there you go. I hope that helps. If you have any questions, feel free to ask.